Hey guys, Hector here, and today I'm going to rate and review every episode of The Fairly OddParents Season 1. I have 3 ratings to give for each episode. First, we have the magic episode, meaning the episode is good. Any type of good. A fair episode, meaning the episode is okay or mediocre, and if it's anti-magic, then the episode is bad. So let's get started with the reviewing, rating, and ranking, which I'll do later after reviewing every episode. Episode 1A, The Big Problem. Timmy wishes to be an adult because he thinks there are a lot of good things of being an adult. Well, I don't know if this is a good plot synopsis. I think I wasn't fluent in delivering that. Anyways, the big problem is the first episode of The Fairly OddParents. Does it do well as a pilot episode? Well, unfortunately, I don't think the big problem is a good episode as for a pilot. You're better off watching the Oh Yeah cartoons episode Fairly OddParents, which the show was named after. But as an episode though, I think the big problem, the Fairly OddParents in the Big Problem, is a magic episode. I think the episode is good because it tackles a very heavy subject for just the first episode of the whole series, and it is the hardships of being a grown up. Sure, being grown up has its positives, but has its negatives too, and that is evident in this episode. The gags weren't that funny. However, I find the gags enjoyable enough. Like the fact that the fairies, like the ageometer, when adult Timmy acts like a kid, he can wish again. Why didn't they use this in later episodes? I mean, I guess it could. So yeah, I have 2 big problems here. So let's go to the next episode. Episode 1B, Power Mad. Timmy wishes himself into a challenging video game that he can't wish himself out of. I really like this episode. I really like Power Mad because of the gags with Cosmo and Wanda making bad TV impressions to distract Vicky from finding out that they are his fairly OddParents, that there is fairy godparents. Anyway, and also the concept itself is amazing. So yeah, there's not much I have to say about this episode. It's a good episode. It's magic, of course. Episode 2A, Spaced Out. I used to think this episode was just an okay episode. Meaning I was close to giving it a fair rating. But after remembering that scene in the spaceship where the king and queen of Yugopatamia challenged Timmy to challenges, it was really funny how it was so easy for him. Eating chocolate was too dangerous for them, and he actually survived it, and they became surprised. And then he walked through a flower field, and then he hugged a teddy bear, and without effort. I really like how pathetic these villains are, and yes, I really like pathetic antagonists sometimes. This is one of them. Although the Mark Chang stuff isn't that good, I still like that spaceship scene. So yes, it was almost a fair episode, but it gets the rating of magic nonetheless. Now we have episode 2B, Transparents. Cosmo and Wanda pretend to be Timmy's actual parents, so that Crocker doesn't find out that they're his fairy godparents. And yeah, I think it's pretty hard to make a plot synopsis out of this. Anyways, I think Transparence is a good episode. Transparence is a has a unique concept with magical beings pretending to be, or fairies pretending to be humans, and Timmy training them to act like humans so that Crocker doesn't find out that they're his fairy godparents. Timmy did this so that his parents don't find out he brought a pet dinosaurs. Anyways, now we have episode 3A, A Wish Too Far. A Wish Too Far is honestly a bad episode. I really don't like A Wish Too Far because this episode is kind of a torture episode for Timmy, and it's one of those cliche. It's a cliche episode. I don't think it's that bad, but I think it's definitely a bad episode. It's kind of a torture episode for Timmy, and although he does learn his lesson in the end, and although the lesson was executed well, it has been done much better in other TV shows like The Loud House, Out in a Limo. Unpopular opinion alert, because many people don't like that episode. So yes, A Wish Too Far is an anti-magic episode because it was pre-cliche and a torture episode for Timmy. Episode 3B, Tiny Timmy. Timmy wishes to be tiny so that he explores the body. I really like this concept. Tiny Timmy has a pretty interesting concept, and I really like how all the body parts were portrayed. And he gets an F at the end. It may be torture for Timmy, but to be fair, he went inside Vicky, and I really like it when Vicky became very nice, became nice to people, and then she became like, is that Snow White? Yes, she became like Snow White to clean up everything. Wait, what's that? Anyways, Tiny Timmy is an amazing episode, and of course it's a magic episode. Episode 4A, Father Time. Yeah, I think Father Time is the first fair episode of the series. I don't really like this episode that much because it's kind of a torture episode for Dad. I really like how Timmy's dad is actually called Dad even though he's a kid, and Timmy's mom as a kid is still called Mom, which is very funny. And yes, this is the episode where the famous meme came from. I put my trophy, if I had one, came from this episode. And yes, I admit that was a pretty good scene. However, as this, I think Father Time is meh because it's a torture episode for both Timmy and his dad. Also, I think Timmy is smart enough to know that Cosmo is the dumb one, and that Wanda's choices are much wiser than her husband's. Yeah, and Cosmo is her husband. Further evident in the next episode. Episode 4B, A Partnership. Cosmo breaks up with Wanda after an event where Wanda becomes hateful towards Cosmo and everything he does for an anniversary. Look, I really don't think a partnership is had to be like this. I don't really think the episode is bad, but I guess it is close. Well, in a critic standpoint. Yes, I think it's an okay episode subjectively, but do I think it's an okay episode objectively? Well, yes it is. I think so. I think a partnership could have done something better. I mean, yeah, Cosmos were... I mean, why would fairies? Why would Jorgen even make that event about fairies becoming hateful? I guess the game show was a very good scene, but it had a riddle. It had a plot hole in it. Like, why did Mama Cosmo want to give Cosmo money if he breaks up with Wanda? I mean, can't fairy? I mean, that's a pretty stupid move. Fairies can just poof things into existence. So yeah, I think a partnership is a fair episode. Episode 5A, Chin Up. I like this episode. I really like it, and I really like those comic gags about comics, like how it's 10 a.m. in one part of the panel and it's a different time in another part of the comic panel. I think those were clever gags. I really liked and I also there was this heavy topic about the Crimson Chin being in the real world, so he forgets his identity. Anyways, the magic episode. Episode 5B, Dog's Day Afternoon. This episode was hated by a few people, by two people I know who reviewed episode season 1 of Fairly Odd Parents. I don't hate this episode that much though. In fact, I think it's good. I really like the gags about a dog being able to speak now, and then AJ and Chester becomes very suspicious of Timmy. That he's acting very weird and stuff. So yeah, Dog's Day Afternoon is a pretty good episode in my opinion. Episode 6A, Dream Goat. Dream Goat is a magic episode. I really like how Timmy saw the goat's mind. I forgot the name of the goat. But I really like that the goat wanted to live with his family. That's why the goat napper gags happened, and everyone was suspicious that he left, so someone must have kidnapped him. Anyways, now let's get to episode 6B. The same game. Timmy wishes everyone was exactly the same. Well, except the fairies. Because I think that's kind of a nonsensical thing for Timmy to wish for. I think he already knows that this is a bad wish. Because if he could just wish that the dentures of Bender and Wendell were gone, and then this would be solved completely. However, this doesn't hinder my enjoyment of the episode. It's a magic episode because because of the last few scenes. It could have been fair if it wasn't for this scene that Timmy's mom teaches. Timmy's mom actually gives Bender and Wendell their just desserts in this episode, and she even teaches Timmy a life lesson that in the outside they may look good. It may be good to look good in the outside, but if they're in a mean person, then those teeth shouldn't be in that person. That's what she said. It's a pretty good lesson because it means that it's about not judging things by their looks. So yes, Timmy's mom is supposed to be a stupid character, but she seems to not be that dumb in this last scene. So yes, same game is good because of this. And lastly, we have Christmas Every Day. I think this episode has a very good concept, and yes, it's a magic episode. I'll explain why in a later review of Christmas Every Day. You'll see the statistics and rankings and rating of the season in next video. Bye!